Greetings. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. This is Holy Toon, and we're back at it again with another Bible study. Right now, we're reading the Action Bible. This is God's redemptive story, a comic book version. So we're going to do a little quick summary of what we read last time. We read the beginning, how Earth started, how mankind started, the basic story of Adam and Eve, their descendants. We got a chance to work our way through Noah's Ark. And we also covered Job's story, the book of Job, how Job was tested, how God will allow the devil to test you, to test your patience, to test your faith, to test your willpower. Job lost everything. He was once living in paradise, wife, kids, land, farm animals, and he lost it all. And it even got to the point where his own wife asked him, "Why don't you shun God? Why don't you curse God's name? Why is God putting you through this?" And God will never put you through that. Satan told God, the only reason why Job has not cursed you is because he has everything. But once he loses it all, he is surely to curse you. He is surely to talk down on you, essentially. And God said, no, he's better than that. Good, you can test him. Test him. Take it all away from him. That's what Satan did. He started taking everything away from him. Killed his cattle, killed his shepherds, lost his sons, and he didn't lose faith in God. He didn't lose faith. And Satan said, you know why he didn't lose faith? Because he still has his health. No man is going to be able to not curse you if he loses his health. He's surely to curse you if he loses his health. And God said, nope, so be it. Test him. If you think that that's going to make him curse my name, test him. So then he took his health, started deteriorating slowly. He had open sores and he was frail. He couldn't eat. And still to the end, he stood positive. He was tested. And his own wife, his own significant other, asked him, why doesn't he curse God? Why is God putting you through this? But Job never lost faith. Even Job's friends were saying, you surely had to do something wrong. God doesn't punish people who doesn't do anything wrong. And because he had faith and he didn't give up, he didn't surrender, in the end, Job got double, triple of what he had back in return. So right now we're at the story where God calls Abram. Let me turn down the brightness on this light real quick, just so that the glare doesn't bother you guys too much. I just make sure that you guys had some sort of light. All right, guys, so let's begin reading. Let me position this accordingly. Please forgive me. Disclaimer, if I make any grammatical errors when I'm reading, please, I do apologize. I position the camera a little bit better now from our last session, but it is also in my way, and I'm sitting a little further than before, so let's begin today's Bible study. God calls Abram. Based on Genesis 11 through 12. Many years pass. People forget about the God who created them. They move down the Euphrates River and build the great trading city of Ur. Ur is the land of plenty, with plenty of different gods. But the one true God speaks to a young man named Abram. This is Abram right here. Abram, why are you out here in the middle of the night? Sarai, God has spoken to me. He said to leave my father's family, my country, and the false gods of behind me. He said to travel to a land that he will show me. There he will make our family a great nation, and all the people on the earth will be blessed through him. Or, I'm sorry, through me. Now, Sarai is Abram's wife. Abram and Sarai. So basically, he's out here contemplating at nighttime, and his wife's asking him, why are you up in the middle of the night? And Abram got a vision from God. He was told by God to basically relocate, leave everything that he knows behind and go to a new land. And if he does that, God will make a great nation after him. So over here, you can see the mountains. He's out here in the middle of nowhere, which is You are. It will be scary to leave everything we know and our family, but we will trust the Lord to keep his promises. How do you think your father will take the news? So you have Abram and Sarai both holding hands, and they're about to leave. They're about to leave their family because they're trusting God. God told Abram to leave where they were comfortable behind. He gave Abram a vision, a feeling. He's asking Sarai, trust me. God told me to relocate. She's holding his hand and they're relocating. And he says it will be scary. We're going to leave everything behind. We're going to leave our family. We're going to leave everything. But we will trust the Lord and he will keep his promises. So she says, how do you think your father will take the news? Not well. So this is the land that they're at. Abram can't leave me behind in my old age. And Lot, you're his nephew. Since your father is dead, it's Abram's responsibility to take care of you too. We're going with him. So I'm assuming this is Abram's father. And as he said, he wasn't going to take the news well. He didn't want him to leave. This is Lot. So this is Abram's nephew. Abram obeys God by leaving but he disobeys by not leaving his old life behind. His father, Terah, comes along, bringing his many idols with him. So when he was supposed to leave, he was supposed to leave by himself with his wife. But instead, some of his past life came with him, which is unfortunately at that situation, it was his father in that case. Seriously, Abram, it's better to worship all the gods. That way you don't offend one by leaving him out. Worshipping other gods offends the one true God. So you're saying he's selfish? So in this case, remember, God told Abram to leave everyone behind, and that's why, because you got his father that went with him who has the old ways of worshiping. He said he's going to bring all the gods. But Abram's telling him worshiping other gods offends the one true God. God leads Terah, Abram, and the rest of their families to the rich land of Haran. Even though the land is beautiful and fertile, God does not want them to settle there. But Terah loves this new land and wants to retire there. Out of respect for his father, Abram stays in Haran, putting off his pursuit of God's promises. There you go. That was one reason why he was supposed to go alone and not bring his family. You know, they're your family and all, but biblically, the Bible says once man and woman are married, man leaves his father and mother behind. And the woman, the wife, leaves her father and mother behind. And they unite in a covenant and they become one. And they start a new life. There's nothing wrong with, loving your family and whatnot, but God wanted them to leave them behind. So instead of continuing to travel where God wants them to travel, Abram's going to settle down in this land. Why? Because Abram's father, Terah, is comfortable there and he wants to retire. One day Terah dies. Abram is now the head of the tribe. He immediately takes charge. So his father passed away. Load up the animals. What are your plans for the tribe, master? God has called me to take my family and leave Haran. I will continue to seek his promised land. I'm with you, Uncle Abram. So this is Lot. That's Abram. And now, I guess some time has passed by since, rest in peace, since Abram's father passed away. Remember, Abram's father was the only one that wanted to stay there. Abram wanted to keep moving forward. Now he's actually able to leave without disappointing his father. But his one true father, which is God Almighty, he kind of disappointed because he didn't act on his word. He acted on his earthly God, on his earthly father's word. Abram leads his tribe through the surrounding lands for several years. He and his extended family lived the life of wandering nomads. You can see them over here with camels, palm trees. But then a famine sweeps through the land. Abram doesn't have enough food to support his tribe. He decides his only choice is to lead his people to Egypt, a powerful nation with plenty of food. So they were going through famine. But he has some fears about his plan. Sarai, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I'm afraid that when Pharaoh sees you, he will fall in love with you. Since I'm your husband, he'll kill me so that he can marry you. We must pretend to be brother and sister. And Sarai says, that sounds very unlikely, but I'll do what you ask. So he tells her that he's afraid that this king is going to kill him to keep his wife. So basically, let's just pretend to be brother and sister. That way the king won't kill him. She's like, that sounds very unlikely, but she's going to listen to her husband. But Abram's predictions come true. Pharaoh falls for Sarai's loneliness, thinking Abram is her brother. Pharaoh gives him lots of money and gifts and asks Sarai to be his wife. So over here, you can see this king has it all, and he gives Abram a bunch of gifts and money and jewels and things of that nature in exchange for Abram's wife, but he thinks that it's his sister. Before Pharaoh can marry her, God intervenes to save his chosen family. Plagues. He hits him with plagues. God strikes the Egyptians with disease so they will let Abram and Sarai go in peace. They give Abram food and money and send him and his family on their way. So over here you can see Abram with sheep and all of that stuff. Thankful for their close escape, Abram and Sarai realize how foolish their plan was. Sarai, forgive me. I did not seek God's help. I was a coward, and I trusted in my own plots to save us. I forgive you, my husband. From now on, I will trust God. I can only pray that he forgives me. I'm sure God forgives you, Abram. After all, he protected us in Egypt, even when we forgot to trust him. I'll never try to outsmart God's plan for us again. I just hope this is the last time I have to pretend to be your sister. So she's kind of upset. You can see the look on her face. So basically, he was a coward. God told him, trust me. Trust. Don't worry about it. Trust my word. But he got scared. He didn't trust that God was going to protect him. So what did he do? He lied. He sinned. He lied. And not only did he lie, he gave up his wife to the king because he was afraid that he was going to get killed when all he had to do was tell the truth. But since he lied and he gave up his wife, God intervened because that's his chosen family. Abram and Sarai is God's chosen family. So what did he do? He hit the Pharaoh, or the king in that case, with plagues. in order to save Abram so they can continue moving forward. Now, if you read an actual Bible gets into that story a bit more detailed and talks about the plagues and all that stuff, which specific plagues and things. And then the Pharaoh, the king himself, says, "Why didn't you just tell me? I would have let you go." And he ends up letting him go, and then he ends up giving him all the stuff and just says, "Keep it. I just want you out of here." So over here, a lot is too much based on Genesis 13. Abram has left Egypt with great wealth, but this blessing from Egypt turns out to be a curse in disguise. Now that the tribe has tasted wealth, their old ways don't seem so great. Your nephew Lot is claiming that his family should get the first choice of the riches from Egypt. You see, look at that. Lot, which is his nephew, is acting spoiled. In spite of the disagreements, Abram and Lot both prosper and their flocks increase. Then the fighting spreads to their workers. Make room for Lot's sheep. No, Abram is the chief. His flocks of sheep come first. So now Lot, which is Abram's nephew, and Abram, they both got sheep. You can see both herds of sheep. But now there's a lot of arguments and animosity amongst them. When Abram hears of the quarrels, he knows he must do something. This time, Sarai, I'll handle this the way I think God would want me to handle it. I'm afraid that we must let Lot go his own way. If you are trusting the Lord, then your plan cannot fail. So this time, he's going to take it into God's hands. He's not going to follow his own gut feeling, but he's going to do what God tells him to do. The next day, Abram seeks out his nephew. Come with me, Lot. I have a solution to our problem. So there you go. You got Abram and you got Lot. So remember, Lot was the young nephew who looked up to his uncle. But since they got a little bit of riches, Lot is basically acting bougie. Like he's acting like, he can be a shot caller. Look, God's promised land is huge. Choose where you would like to live, and I'll take what is left. That's very generous of you, uncle. I'll take the valley near the city of Sodom. So look at that. Abram, right, is offering a chunk of land to his nephew. Now, his nephew's taking it as a gift, but low key, Abram's just trying to part ways and get rid of him. So he says that he'll take the city or the valley near the city of Sodom. Up here, rescue mission based on Genesis 14, Hebrews chapter 7, verse 1 through 3. After the families separate, time passes and a great battle ensues. 5 kings work together to defeat Sodom, where Lot prospers. Lot is kidnapped along with his entire family. Abram, your nephew, has been taken along with all of his people and their possessions. So this guy came and told Abram. You see him all frantic? Abram gathers all his men and goes in pursuit of Lot. He rescues everyone. So check it out. Abram went over there like in boss mode and he went and rescued all his folks, including Lot. King Melchizedek came and blessed Abram. This is King Melchizedek. I guess that's how you would say his name. Melchizedek. Blessed be God who helped you defeat your enemies. So this is Abram, and he's being blessed by this guy. And we're just going to call him Mel. So after the blessings, you have Abram proceeds to give Melchizedek a portion or tithe of all that he has. Later, when the king of Sodom tries to give some back to Abram, so tithe is an interesting word that we can focus on. Tithe is giving back. When God blesses you with so much, when God gives you so much in abundance, even if it's $1 or if it's $100,000, you're expected to tithe. You're expected to give a percentage of what you make to God's other children. He wants you to share. He don't want you to be stingy. You understand? So whether you have $5 in your pocket If you have 500, you should give something somehow, right? So that's what Abram did. Abram tithed. Abram gave Melchizedek a portion as a tithe, right? Remember, this is the guy that just blessed them. I made a promise to God that I would take nothing from you other than what my men have eaten. Then you can never say that you made me rich. Lot's adventure. So over here we see a map and we have what looks to be like a legend. The black line is the root of the kings. The yellow line is the root of Lot. The red or burgundy line is the root of Abram. So over here you have the map. You have the Salt Sea. You have where Lot is taken. Sodom and Gomorrah. You have Bethel, Oak of Mamre, Hebron. Lot settles in the new land. You have Tamar and Zor, right? So the yellow line is root of Lot. Lot started in Bethel. He went all the way down to Salt Sea, and he ended up in Zor, right? And he settles in this new land over here. The solid black line is the root of the kings. So the solid black line is the kings. They went all the way around this side of the Salt, the sea. Looks like they went through the mountains. And they came down here and they ended up in Sodom and Gomorrah. And then the burgundy root is the root of Abram. Abram split. Abram left everyone. Abram went, what looks to be like on this map, went north. Abram left Oak of Mamre and he went north past Salem all the way up to the top of the map. Remember, because he was trying to separate and get away because God wanted him to get away. Insufficient sons, based on Genesis, verse 15 through 18. Many years pass. Abram and Sarai are now old, and they have no children, but God repeats his promise. You will have more descendants than there are stars in the heavens. As a sign of his promise, God changes Abram's name to Abraham, which means father of many children. So originally, this gentleman we're following, his name is Abram. Throughout the whole story we're following him, his name is Abram. But after God made this promise that he would have many children, now mind you, at this point of the story, Abram, or AKA Abraham, is 99 years old. And he hasn't had children. So God therefore tells him, listen, don't lose faith. Since you followed my promise, or since you followed and kept your promise, right? You follow my law, what I wanted. I'm going to give you more children than there are stars in the sky. And he's 99. So God also changes Sarai's name to Sarah, which means princess. So Abraham means father of many, and Sarai means princess, or I should say Sarah. He changes Sarai's name to Sarah because she would be the mother of nations. But Sarah is too old to have children. Without any sons, how could Abraham's descendants be as numberless as the stars? Maybe God just means you will have children and not me. You should take my servant, Hagar, as a wife. She might have a son for me. God has promised me an heir, or an heir. Well, heir, pretty much. H is silent. I'm sorry. Perhaps this is the way. So Sarah can have kids. It's said that she's infertile, right? She feels that she can have kids. But she says, well, maybe, because they're wondering like, well, how am I going to have so many kids that are endless like the stars? She thinks that it's basically meaning maybe not with her, but maybe with her servant. So she has a servant named Hagar. So she's saying, well, maybe you should, plant your seed in my servant. So they're trying to get their heir anyway, right? Sarah approaches Hagar with her idea to speed up God's plan. Hagar, we are ready to have a son. but I am unable to give one to Abraham. I want you to go to him. So this is Sarah. As you can see, she's older, she's wrinkled, she has white hair. And this is Hagar. Hagar is young. You could tell she's young. She got smooth skin, tight bone structure, brown hair, wavy hair. She says, yes, I will do as you ask. She has a nice cheesy smile on her face. So mind you, you have this older woman, Sarah, and her older husband, Abraham, trying to conceive, but they can't conceive. But what do? They don't obey God. They don't have faith that God is going to bless them with children, and they end up doing their own thing. She gives her own servant, another woman, to her husband to mate. Remember, when you have a son, I will adopt him. That's what Sarah says. She only wants her to basically be the surrogate mother, because this is before technology and before all of that stuff. So if you wanted someone to have a kid for you, he had to sleep with her. So Abraham had to actually take Hagar and get her pregnant. (53) 54. The relationship between Sarah and Hagar changes after Hagar learns she is going to have a baby. Sarah begins to mistreat Hagar, so she decides to run away. Hagar, where have you been and where are you going? I'm running away from Sarah. Go back and listen to Sarah. You will have a son, and you are to name him Ishmael. The Lord has heard your sadness. You see me for who I am? Hagar returns and has a son together with Abraham. She names him Ishmael. So there you go. So Sarah started treating her differently. She kind of resented Hagar because Sarah was the one that wanted a kid with her husband, but because she couldn't conceive, she then offered Hagar. But in the beginning, it sounded like a good idea. But after she got pregnant, she kind of like got jealous and like envious, which are sins. So Hagar was going to run out. She was going to run. She was going to just run away. But this person right here came and said, don't run away. Don't. So they had the baby. Check it out. They had the baby and they named the baby Ishmael. So over here, as Hagar's son Ishmael grows to boyhood, he is the center of attention. Throughout the camp, both women take pride in him. But in her heart, Sarah knows that Ishmael isn't really hers. The trouble between Hagar and Sarah grows. Someday, my son will rule this whole tribe. Hagar gets more sure of herself every day. So she's kind of feeling, she's holding her head high. Hagar is holding her head high. She feels proud of her son because she knows that Abraham is said to, have a kingdom and have many kids than the stars that are in the sky. So since Hagar was the one that carried that kid, she's feeling like prideful. But Sarah over here is feeling jealous. Sarah's feeling jealous because that was supposed to be her kid, right? But she's like, over here, you can see it's a thought bubble. This is speech. This is Hagar's speech bubble. Someday my son will rule this whole tribe. This is her son over here practicing archery. Hagar gets more sure of herself every day. This is what Sarah's thinking. Abraham worries about the trouble in his camp. One day, while he is resting and thinking about Ishmael, Hagar, and Sarah, he looks up. 3 strangers approach Abraham's camp. He greets them and invites them to rest and eat with him. Now, mind you, at that time, it is said that you are to welcome in strangers into your home. It doesn't matter if you don't know them. You're supposed to welcome them in, give them food, give them shelter, and give them offerings. That was just the biblical thing to do in that time and age. While they're eating, one of the strangers give Abraham surprising news. Your wife Sarah will have a son. What? And then here's Sarah over here. Ha ha ha. I'm too old to have children now. Remember, Sarah was said to be infertile, which is why she offered up Hagar, her maid servant, to her husband Abraham to have a kid. But you got these two gentlemen who come, who could be prophets, could be angels. We'll learn more in the story. They come. Abraham offers them to come into the house. He welcomes them in. And these two prophets basically say, your wife Sarah will have a son, right? But she doesn't believe it. She's over here thinking she's too old. When the strangers leave, Abraham walks with them for a while. That city of Sodom is so wicked that God will have to destroy it. Remember? Sodom and Gomorrah. These must be messengers from God. They are talking about the place where Lot lives. Abraham pleads to God to save Sodom. Would you really destroy the righteous along with the wicked? What if there are even 50 good people in that city? Do they deserve to be destroyed? So right here, Abraham is a bit concerned because remember, Sodom is where Lot, his nephew, went. So he's kind of concerned because in the previous slide, that city of Sodom is so wicked that God will have to destroy it. So there's so much sinning going on in Sodom that it's going to get destroyed. But Abraham is pleading with God. You see him in front of the fire talking to God. He's saying, would you really destroy the righteous along with the wicked? What if there are even 50 good people in that city? Do they deserve to be destroyed? God agrees to save Sodom for the sake of 50 good men, but Abraham continues to bargain with God. What if there are 30 good men? Finally, he gets God to promise that the city will be saved even if there are 10 good men in it, right? So the destruction of Sodom, based on Genesis 19. Meanwhile, two of the angels have reached Sodom. Abraham's nephew, Lot, welcomes them. You are strangers here. Come stay at my home. You see? These two men, they're strangers, and they also go to Sodom. And Lot, which is Abraham's nephew, he does the same thing. He welcomes them into his home. Now, in modern day, in 2025, that might be a bit sketchy to let random people into your home. I don't know how many of you will let random people into your home, but let's continue with the story. No, it's okay. We'll spend the night out here. So these men are pretty okay. They're pretty happy with staying outside. Trust me, the square is not safe and probably rich. I'm sorry. Back then, somewhere in the Bible, I don't know if it's before or after this, when these men came in the house, they also got offerings such as the daughters. So I do remember in the Bible, that's why I can't say if it's this story, before the story, after the story. We'll learn as we continue to move forward. When these men would come in the house, not only would they get food, shelter, water, and so on, hospitality basically, but if Lot had a daughter, Lot would offer his daughter to these men, and they can deflower his daughter. Which now in modern day, you would look at that as absurd. You would say, wow, that is no way in hell would I let these random men take my daughter. But back in that time, that's what they would allow them to do. Trust me, the square is not safe. There's something strange about those two men. They're not from here. And probably rich. Let's rob them and teach them a lesson. So you got these guys over here. They think that something's weird about those two men that just popped up, which is the two dudes that Lot let come in. Later that night, the evil men gather a crowd and surround Lot's house. Those strangers, let us have them. No, don't do this wicked thing. So Lot's not having it. Those townsmen or the people from the town, they want those men. They want to execute them because they think there's something weird about them, right? We'll do worse things to you, Lot if you don't send them out. Just as the mob reaches out for Lot, the two strangers pull him inside and bolt the door. So check this out. Lot's own townsmen, the people who live in this town with Lot. Remember, Lot started this town. Essentially, Lot got granted this land, and these are basically Lot's people. Lot's people are about to turn on him because they want access to those two men who came and prophesied and sent a message to Lot that basically Sodom is going to be destroyed, and God's trying to give him a heads up from whisper down the lane from Abraham, which is his uncle, because Abraham was worried about, the good people that's in that land. Break down the door. You see, you got the angry mob down here. They're angry. Let's get them. So they got bats, sticks in their hands. Outside Lot's house in Sodom, the mob goes wild. Look at them. They're trying to break the door open. As the men push against Lot's door, the angels, you see, they were angels. They were angels. As I mentioned earlier, those two men that showed up to Abraham's door, they were angels. The angels, showing their power, strike the rioters blind. Help! I can't see! My eyes! Who hit me? I'm sorry to laugh. Who hit me? So those two men, they weren't just regular men. Those two men were angels. They were angels walking the lands. Inside Lot's house, there are no righteous people left in this town. Run for your life. Or I should say in this case, run for your lives. The Lord sent us to destroy the sinful city. My family, I must save them. So the Lord sent these two angels to destroy Sodom, right? But they just wanted to see if there was any righteous people left. But look at the whole dang town didn't seem righteous because they're trying to kill those two angels. So the two angels are giving Lot a heads up. Leave, because we're about to destroy this sinful city. But Lot's like, my family, I must save them. But Lot's sons-in-laws only laugh when he tries to warn them. They refuse to leave. The doomed city so early the next morning, the two angels lead Lot, his wife, and their two daughters away. Suddenly, all of Sodom bursts into flames. You see? So Lot did have two daughters. So if you read the actual Bible and the biblical story about this, Lot does offer his daughters to these two men, which now we learn are angels. Don't look back at the city or you will also die. So that's what the angels are telling Lot and his wife. I repeat, the city is in flames. You see it? Don't look back at the city or you will also die. But it's the only home I have ever known. That's Lot's wife. That's what she's thinking. She's so connected to that land. She's so, I guess, it's understandable because that's the only home that she ever knew. But she was supposed to listen. You understand? She didn't. Lot's wife stops and looks back longingly. Instantly, she is turned into a pillar of salt. Only Lot and his two daughters escape God's punishment. Wow. Look at her right here. She turns to salt and she perishes. All she had to do was listen. Keep running forward. Don't look back. Keep running forward. And she turned to dust. Early the next morning, Abraham goes to the hilltop to worship and sees the thick smoke rising from the ruins of the wicked city. As surely as night follows day, destruction follows sin. Oh God, help me lead my people into the path of righteousness. Wow, that's crazy, right? So he goes to the mountaintop to pray as he normally would, and he sees all the smoke. You see the smoke right here? He sees the smoke. And the smoke gives him the heads up that the city is destroyed. Wow. And he knows that his nephew and his nephew's family is there. But at that point, I don't know if he is sure if they made it out or not. So Hagar's journey, based on Genesis chapter 21, verse 1 through 21. After the destruction of Sodom, Abraham decides to move to a new place. He leaves his growing clan to the Negev region near the desert. So you got Abraham relocating once again with his whole tribe, camels, and all his folks, and they're going through the desert, and they're relocating. The angels who visited Abraham had told him Sarah would have a son. 1 year later, their prediction comes true. Who would have thought that I would ever have a son? I'm too old, but I'm holding my baby in my arms. I'll never doubt God's promises again. Now, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, Abraham is 100 years old, 100 plus, 100 score years old. Remember, neither of them had kids. He didn't have a kid until he was 99, and the first one was around the time with Hagar, which was the servant, remember, because she gave the servant to him. And then he has this whole other kid because these angels visited him and said, you will have a kid. In the end, you should have never, they didn't have faith in God. Again, you got to have faith. God's going to test you. He's 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 going to test you to the very end. He's going to test you. But if you can pass these tests, you will be blessed immensely. So he ended up being blessed. Look at, he had another little baby. Abraham named his second son Isaac. So you had Ishmael and you had Isaac. What will become of Ishmael, his first son? He might have become our ruler, but now the baby Isaac will be next in line after Abraham. I'm sure it won't be a problem. So you got these looks like haters over here, this little circle of haters that are like pondering, like, because they're kind of like, it sounds like they're low-key jealous or envious. They're talking about like, what's going to happen, because back in that time, in biblical time, remember, Abraham was a king. Abraham was like said to be like a leader, a ruler of the land, right? So a king's children or king's offsprings would be next in line to rule the land. Now, before he had Isaac, his real son with his real wife, well, not saying that Ishmael wasn't his real son, but Ishmael was born from, you could say, like a mistress, which was Hagar. Hagar was the maid, which technically they should have waited. If they would have waited 1 year, they would have just had one son. There would be no issues. But issues arise because now there's two sons from two separate women, one man. Tension grows between Sarah and Hagar over their sons. At baby Isaac's first feast, look how clumsy little Isaac is. I'm sorry. The writers of this book made that funny. You got that's funny. You got this character over here that said, look how clumsy Isaac is. This, I'm assuming, is little Isaac. Oh, wow. This character over here is Ishmael. Ishmael, be quiet. Sarah is angry. What will she do about Ishmael? So, Ishmael, which is the older brother, is picking on his younger brother, Isaac. That's messed up. That's funny, like in the comedic sense of how they wrote this book, but in reality, it's not so cool that he was picking on his brother. Hagar's son can't make fun of mine. Abraham, you must send Ishmael and Hagar away before they cause real trouble in the tribe. I'm sorry, I'm going to read that once more. Hagar's son can't make fun of mine. Abraham, you must send Ishmael and Hagar away before they cause real trouble in the tribe. So you can see Sarah, you see she's an older woman. You can see that she's offended and she's starting to get resentful and kind of angry at Hagar because her son, which she originally took as her own, remember when Ishmael was first born, She said, I wanted that baby. But once she had her own baby, she kind of almost like in a way disowned him. She's saying, he's going to cause trouble. So you must send him away to another land because I don't want him here no more. Now she got her own son. She don't care about Ishmael. That's messed up. Night after night, Abraham asked God how to solve this family problem. Finally, God answers him. You hear that? Night after night. Sometimes you won't get an answer right away. God's not going to answer you when you want the answer. God's going to answer you when he's ready to give you the answer. And along those days where you're waiting, he's going to prepare you. You understand? He's preparing you. Sometimes when God shuts a door, he's shutting a door on purpose. You understand? So don't ever be disappointed when a door gets shut. Because when a door gets shut, he's preparing you for the next door that's going to open. Do what Sarah says, because I will fulfill my promise through Isaac. But don't worry about your first son, Ishmael. I will take care of him and his mother. So this is God talking to Abraham. So God's telling Abraham, listen to what Sarah's saying. Listen to her. Send them away. I'm going to take care of you and your son, but don't worry about your other son. I'm going to take care of them too. So let's see what the next page holds. Early one morning, because of Sarah's jealousy, it is better that you and Ishmael leave. Don't be afraid. God will watch over you. So here's Abraham. Abraham is basically kicking the mistress, aka Hagar, which was the maidservant, out. And his son, which is pretty messed up. That he got to kick out his son too. Day after day, Hagar and Ishmael wandered through the burning sand, one fear pounds in hand. I'm sorry. Day after day, Hagar and Ishmael wandered through the burning sand. One fear pounds in Hagar's mind. Will we have enough water until we find an oasis? I had to register that sentence. I'm sorry, because the way it was written, I didn't process it. So day after day, they're going through the sand. It's burning hot sand. But she's like, her head is pounding. She's having this fear, this thought. Will we have enough water until we find an oasis? At last, the dreaded moment comes. There's no more water. Mother, I'm dying of thirst. So here's Ishmael, right? I know, son. So am I. Lie down in the shade of the bush. So they're both super thirsty. They're getting dehydrated. Oh God, don't make me watch my child die. So she's crying. You see her tearing? She's crying. Dead, tired, and choking with thirst, Hagar turns her back on her son, Ishmael. She cannot stand to watch him die. Suddenly, she hears a voice. The angel of God says, lift the boy up. I will make him a great nation. Hagar starts towards her son. Look at, she's crying. She's teary-eyed and sees a spring of water. Water. We will not die, Ishmael. God has saved us. Check it out. There's a spring of water. So they got water. And God also said, you heard what God said? God said, I will make him a great nation. So he made a promise there too. He made a promise to Isaac, but he also made a promise to Ishmael, which are both Abraham's kids. Which, if you follow the story and you followed it well, they're descendants of Noah, and they're descendants all along the heritage, all along the family tree too. Who? Adam and Eve. So God is trying to perfect man, but unfortunately, because of the sin of Adam and Eve, he's had so many errors along the way. Man is so faulted. So knowing God is with them, Hagar and Ishmael continue their journey. They build a home in the wilderness. Years pass. Eventually, Ishmael marries an Egyptian girl and becomes the head of a great desert tribe. A father's sacrifice. Based on Genesis 22:23, Isaac and I must go on a journey. Saddle the horses. So this is Abraham. And he's saying that him and his son must go on a journey. He's telling his servants to put some saddles on the horses. But this is a journey like no other. No one knows that. As a test of faith, God has told Abraham to sacrifice his son. Over a lifetime of faithfulness, Abraham has learned to obey God, but he does not understand the perplexing command. So God is basically telling him, sacrifice your son. But Abraham knows throughout his whole lifetime, remember he's 100 plus years old. He knows that God always comes through on his promises, but he also knows that he must listen to God's command. But he's confused because God's saying, sacrifice your son, but he doesn't want to disobey God. How could God ask such a thing? I know it's absurd, but I must believe that even if I sacrifice Isaac, God will give him back to me somehow, even if it means raising him from the dead. You hear that? So he's going through some internal questioning. Leaving the servants behind, they trek up towards the mountaintop, but Isaac's curiosity grows. Something is wrong. This isn't how we usually do it. So here's Isaac. Look at his face. Look at Abraham's face. So Isaac is feeling like, yo, this is sketchy. Look at. Sorry, guys. So Isaac is like, yo, this is sketchy. You see the donkey? He's like, no. Something is up. We don't usually do it this way. But Abraham he's probably feeling a ball of mixed emotions. Confused, anger, worry. He's probably feeling trust. He has to feel a ball of emotions because he knows that he has to go sacrifice his son. That's his son from his wife. Like that's that's the one that he wanted from the beginning. Alone, the mountaintop, Abraham and Isaac build an altar. Here's the wood, Father, but where is the animal to sacrifice? So Isaac doesn't know what's about to go down. Isaac doesn't know that he's basically building his own grave. He's preparing his own execution. God will supply the sacrifice, my son. Wow, so he hasn't told him yet. Suddenly, Abraham turns and binds his son. Father, he's tying him up. Guys, he's tying up his own son. He's tying him up to sacrifice him. If God wants him, I'm sorry. If God wants me to give him my promised son, I will obey. So here you go. He's giving his faith to God. And look at Isaac's probably scared, confused. Oh my gosh. That must have been a scary feeling, right? Like just not knowing. Like, oh my gosh, my father's about to execute me? For what? So on this next page, suddenly Abraham hears the voice of God. Don't lay a hand on your son. I will never truly let you do such a thing. But you have proven that you are fully devoted. You're fully devoted to me. You didn't hold back even your son. You see, that was the test. Guys, it's a test. It's a test. And you'll be tested numerous times. As Abraham breathes a huge sigh of relief, he spots a ram caught in a nearby bush. So there's a ram. Here, you see the horns caught in the bush? A ram for the sacrifice. Thank you, God. So in exchange, rather than sacrificing his son, and it's crazy because early on in the story, the previous page, when his son, Isaac, and him were building the altar where they were going to do the sacrifice, he did tell his son, God will bless us with a sacrifice. And because he never gave up and he didn't turn back and he followed God's word, he ended up getting a sacrifice and he didn't have to give up his son. Quickly, Abraham releases Isaac and puts the ram in his place on the altar. Father, you gave me to God. and he gave me back to you. Yes, my son, it was a test of faith. Isaac, never doubt the wisdom and love of God. You see? You see that? So they're like holding each other. And look at the little what is that? The ram. The ram is over there laying down on the altar. That sucks. R.I.P. Ram. With joyous hearts, Abraham and Isaac give thanks to God. I swear in the name of myself that because you obeyed me, I will bless the whole world through your children. Wow. So let me repeat that again. So when we see this little bubble with the exclamations around it, that's God speaking. So you see Isaac and Abraham in front of the altar, right? I swear in the name of myself. So he's swearing in the name of God. I swear in the name of myself that because you obeyed me, I will bless the whole world through your children. Who are his children? Ishmael and Isaac. On the way home, Isaac walks ahead and alone through his mind. Flash scenes of the day. He can still feel the ropes that tied him onto the altar. He's traumatized. He has PTSD. He has PTSD, man. See his father's knife. Feel the joy of knowing he would not be killed. Wow. Yeah, that's sketchy, bro. Like, that's scary. You know, imagine your parent takes you to an altar and ready to sacrifice you. Nowadays, they'll call child protective services. they'll call the cops on you. They'll 302 you and lock you in the loony bin if you say God told you to sacrifice your child. So, that's messed up, right? Sarah rushes out of the camp to greet him. Isaac, what happened? You left here a boy, but you have returned a man like your father, strong and wise. From my father, I learned the cost of faith. And from God, I learned the reward of faith. You see? So the cost of faith is everything. It might be blood that needs to be sacrificed in this day and age, right? Because blood sacrifices, the last blood sacrifice was with the one and only Jesus Christ. That was the final blood sacrifice, you know, shedding the blood of the lamb. But that will come later in the story. You no longer have to shed blood. Let's just say that. In the years that follow, the tribe of Abraham prospers. Then one day, sad news spreads quickly through the camp. Sarah has passed away. She died, ladies and gentlemen. Abraham's wife, Isaac's mom, passed away. That's a shame, right? Isaac and Rebekah, based on Genesis 24. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to leave it here. I'm going to put my bookmark here. This is a very interesting bookmark that I'm choosing to use. One day I was walking into a Walmart and this was laying on the ground. And I was going to walk by it. Honestly, I picked it up and I sat it on the windowsill and I said, you know what? Let me just sit here for someone. And I said, no, wait. This was meant for me. This is my gift from God. A Christmas story. This party is going to be amazing. Check it out. This is like a little mini Bible thing. This is pretty cool. It's like a little, biblical story. So I kept it. And, I had faith. I said, you know what? This is meant for me. And you know why it was meant for me? It's our bookmark, guys. That's sick, right? A free bookmark. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that was today's Bible study. We're going to keep our Bible studies at 1 hour. What's up, Super Spy? Shout out to Super Spy. Shout out to the last Don Kevin. Shout out to JB. Thank you to everybody who came through and stood for this Bible study. I'm sorry for all my slurring and all my hiccups and stutters. I will do better on the next Bible study. I'm going to master this reading thing. It's kind of difficult because my positioning and where I'm sitting at on the table, and I have a camera in front of me and these glasses and stuff, these bifocals, but we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. We have faith. Hope you guys gained some knowledge from today's story. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this Bible study, please kick that thumbs up. Thank you very much. This is Holy Toon, and I'm tuning out.